So yeah, the topic of forgiveness. I think we all grow up with the idea that we're supposed to forgive. And I'm going to say air quotes, supposed to forgive. Um, we're supposed to forgive people. We're supposed to say, I'm sorry, or, offer an apology for things, accept and receive, because that is the right thing to do. And as I was reflecting on that, kind of because it's the right thing to do, I realized that that right there starts the pattern of getting us in trouble, because doing something because society, a parent, community members, someone else tells us that it's the right thing to do might not be, if we do it in that time, might not actually be something that serves us in the way that we need to, so it doesn't benefit us in the way that it could if we were actually doing the thing, so the apology or, um, the forgiveness, saying these words when we've fully processed what we're saying I'm sorry for, or we're offering a forgiveness for. Um, I'm reminded of the phrase, we forgive for others and not, or no, we forgive for ourselves and not for others. And this is something that didn't really make sense to me for a long time. I'm talking decades. So this phrase is kind of, I've heard it. We've all heard it, but it's not something that actually made sense to me until very recently, and I'll say like within the last couple of years recently. So that phrase and the fact that we say I'm sorry or offer forgiveness or say words because it's the right thing to do or because someone else wants us to make them or someone else feel better. We do that because it's almost like patterning or training. Um, but what if that is counter to what our natural response is or wants to be? So it's kind of the question that I've started to run with is, if we're taught to say I'm sorry or offer forgiveness to someone or for something, for an incident or something that happens, without giving ourselves the full ability to understand what we're saying, why we're saying it, what the impact to us was, what the impact to the other person, like without that full understanding and appreciation for what took place, are we actually doing ourselves a disservice instead of helping? And I have a little bit of a hypothesis here that we actually are or could be hurting ourselves by doing this prematurely instead of doing the processing, doing the understanding to then be able to offer these words that are very valuable when coming from the right place. And I'll say the right place, coming from a place of understanding and like actual genuine thought and feeling behind them. That's kind of what I mean when I say the right place. So when they're coming from that place instead of an out of obligation place, they mean more for not only you as the person offering the words, but for the recipient. And I think this is where that phrase, we forgive for self instead of for others, really really starts to hit and is really powerful. So I said I didn't really understand that until recently, and I think it's because I always heard people say it from a one at an obligation perspective, but also from a, I don't want to say like it's like from a religious perspective. It's the right thing. It's the, insert religion here thing to do because of, my faith, I do this, or because I'm, in a community, this is what I do. So kind of doing it out of expectation or obligation instead of, again, evaluating the circumstance, how they actually feel, and then acting and processing from there. And this is coming from someone who didn't forgive for a long time. Like, I'm talking, I was the girl who held a grudge and would hold it for a lifetime if you let me. I wouldn't let things go. I took things personally. I was victim, victim, victim. Like, why did you do this to me? Why did this happen to me? And I was unwilling to see that there were potentially multiple possibilities and angles from a situation instead of just my own, instead of just me being hurt and needing to hold that hurt against others and even against myself. And holding this hurt, what I later came to realize and learn and get very, very, very familiar with was holding this hurt actually did hurt me. So holding the grudge of, the argument of the person from 10 years ago, or holding the, the mistreatment, perceived mistreatment of, someone or something 5, 10, 15 years ago, holding on to that actually burdened me in a way that I didn't want, unnecessarily so, and likely didn't burden the other person as long as it burdened me. But I likely, very likely, I very likely was holding on to things and holding on to perceptions and emotions and beliefs and behaviors and just and grudges and so many things. I was holding that against people because I was unwilling to just let go. Just let go. So, what it took for me was a few things. Realizing that holding on to this stuff hurts. It hurt me. It hurt my health. It hurt my relationships. It hurt my ability to see clearly, perceive clearly, to dream, to think of possibilities for myself. Like, I'm going to use the example of fog. So, if you've ever driven through really dense fog, and I'm talking about like can't see but a few feet in front of you, dense, like really, really, really dense, thick fog. If you're on the road and you're driving in really dense fog, you drive really slow, you're very cautious, you just hope and pray that you're going to reach your destination. You can't see what's around you. You can't see what's in front of you. You can't see what's behind you. Like, you might see where the lines on the road are or where the shoulder is, but you can't really see a lot of what's going on. Like, you're aware of what's going on in your car. You're aware maybe of what's going on a few feet in front of you, and that's it. I like to think of living without forgiveness as kind of living with that fog, like driving through the fog, because you can't see full potential. You can't see all of the things that are around you. Hey, Lisa, you can't see everything that's around you, and that then limits all possibilities for yourself, for others, for your life, for everything. You, I don't want to say are unnecessarily cautious, because you kind of have to be cautious, but it's because of the limits around yourself, your environment. And you can't accelerate. Like there's little possibility to accelerate if you're driving in dense fog. Like the last thing you want to do is accelerate because you don't know where you're going to end up. It could be good, it could be really bad. So living in that place of fog, I'm likening to living in a place of where we're not able to see the benefit and the power of forgiveness. Now, when the fog starts to lighten, when the sun starts to peek through the clouds, when we're able to see a little bit more of what's in front of us, we're able to see a little bit more of what's to the sides of us, we're able to get our bearings, we're able to see and feel and perceive and process and accelerate a little bit and think of different things instead of just fearing for your life and just praying that you're going to get to where you're going to get or where you'd like to get. Possibilities open up, perspective opens up, your awareness of your surroundings opens up. So the sun and the lessening of the dense fog can represent when we're letting forgiveness into our lives. And this kind of example works for me because there's so much that we miss when we're not willing to use the power of forgiveness. There's so much that we I'll just say miss. There's so much that we miss, there's so much that we fear, there's so much that we limit, there's so much that we're unwilling to recognize and experience. It's just like the blinders are on. We can't see much of what we're exposed to because of the limitation. And for me, this is absolutely true. I'm talking relationships and not having good ones with friends or otherwise, feeling stuck, feeling just in victim mode, like everything was being done to me or against me, or like the constant question was why me, like victim, victim, victim. And health took a big toll because not only was I carrying, these burdens of these little grudges that I was holding, but I actually was holding on to other people's stuff too because it was easier because I was already in that mode. So I was carrying the burden of the things that I was dealing with, and then others see you deal with that, and it's like, okay, well, I'll just pile my stuff onto yours because you seem to be able to handle it. And it's like, well, not really the best choice and decision, but yeah, it's like the magnet, it just attracted. And like I said, health was impacted, happiness was impacted, feeling stuck, feeling angry. I had a lot of anger and resentment and fear. I was afraid of a lot, and sadness and disappointment, confusion. All of these things were things that I carried every single day because I was in victim mode. I couldn't see that I was holding things for others. I couldn't see that I was holding things that I actually could let go. I didn't see the benefit of releasing the grudge or just letting the emotion go and letting the situation be. I couldn't see that that was a possibility, let alone see the value of it in my life. So as a result, I was angry, I was unhappy, I felt stuck, I had horrible relationships, and my health was not the best. Not a good place to be. Not a good place to be. I admit it, and I'm so glad I got some tools. Let's just say that. So glad I got some tools. So, and when these tools started to come, it was the understanding of I didn't have the tools before, so it did not mean that I now had permission to beat myself up because I didn't have the tools before. Hey, Catlin. The timing was the timing, the actions were the actions, the tools came when the tools were supposed to come. Everything happened for a reason. Like, I can say that now. In the moment, in the years prior, I could not say that. But from that place of holding the emotions and the judgment and the discomfort and the disillusionment and the sadness and the anger, like holding all of those things, you can't see the benefit. But once those tools start to come and the fog starts to lift, it starts to burn off, that sun starts peeking through, oh, it's good. It is good. One of the one of the realizations that I really had, which like really put me into action, was not only that the concept that we could hold on to things for other people. So, and what I mean by that is, let's say I have a disagreement or something with someone, and I feel a certain way, they feel a certain way. I have my feelings, I hold on to my feelings, and I hold on to everything that happens in that situation, whether it's mine or not. So I hold on to my version of the experience. I hold on to my emotions, my beliefs. I hold on to the everything that happens in that situation and how I perceive it. I also am holding on to anything that person has thrown my way, any projections and expectations of how they think I should be behaving, anything that they have literally just thrown my way, I pick that up too. Consciously or unconsciously, it happens. So here's the kicker. Anytime this happens in this lifetime or any other lifetime, so I'm talking like Akashic records and past lives and things, all that burden comes forward too. Not only did this make me upset, like I'm talking really upset, like sit down and really take some time to process, but just the sheer gravity of the things that we can carry around with us from little or big situations. Just the amount that can happen consciously and unconsciously blew my mind. Like literally blew my mind. So not only could I be carrying around, my grief, my shame, my resentment, my fear, my anger, like all these things that I'm dealing with personally from that situation, the other person's, whatever they throw my way, everything that represents, and any time that has happened between us prior or future, and potentially anywhere that's happened with any other person similar in topic. So it doesn't actually have to be the person, but it can be, a similar situation, just a different person. Think of all the stuff you can carry around just from one situation, like one argument. How burdensome is that? And what is the benefit of carrying it around? Like, what is the benefit if we don't seek clarity and awareness and release? Because it can impact us. Like I said, the fear, the judgment of self, the sickness, the fatigue, the feelings of being stuck, the inability to communicate effectively, like all these things can happen. Hormonal imbalances, like the sheer thought of carrying burdens that are not our own and carrying the burdens that are our own and not releasing them and the impact that it can have on the body. I'm like, sign me up for tools. Give me tools. I want tools. I don't want to carry this around. I've got, enough to deal with. I want to feel lighter. I want to feel free. I want to feel like the fog is lifting. I want the sunshine. Like, I don't want that burden. And that realization, like all the things that we carry around, that did it to me. That did it to me and for me. Like, I kicked it into high gear once I really, really understood how holding on to things, again, consciously or unconsciously, how holding on to these things can really, really impact us in our bodies, in our perception of self, and our ability to perceive situations around us, and our ability to communicate effectively with ourselves and others. So many things. Our ability for our bodies to process, digest, balance, rest, digest, thrive. The power of forgiveness can be that powerful. Releasing those burdens when we don't need to carry them anymore. So, one of the ways, so there's several ways that we can release. So there's several ways. But there's a couple of keys that I personally have found that are extremely important in doing any process. So any process to forgive, any process to release things. And that is actually the concept of gratitude. The concept of gratitude and the concept of actual reconciliation. So it's not just about releasing this, like throwing out the trash, I'm done with this, never want to deal with it again. But really, really understanding what you're releasing, what you're forgiving, and why. And getting to the point where you can see both or multiple sides. This has been the key for me. Becoming essentially the ultimate observer. And that is where the gold is. That's where the magic happens. When you can become the observer for any situation, like you're a participant, but you can become an observer of you and the other person and really come to an understanding of what happened, why it happened, how the impact, took place, and really understanding your part, their part, and then getting to a place of neutrality and really saying, you know what? I did learn something from this, whether it was about myself, them, a pattern, whatever. I learned something from this. I gained from it, whether I wanted to or not. We don't always want the growth. We don't always want the lesson. But I gained something from it, whether I wanted to or not. I can see it from another person's perspective, and I'm ready to release it. So, I'll say there are 4, 5. They're like 5, 6-ish kind of exercises that I wrote down that I've used to kind of go through forgiveness and reconciliation. With that end goal of coming to a place of gratitude for the situation, for the person, for getting the lesson, whether I wanted to or not, and how it's helped me grow or see a new perspective or, something like that. And ultimately being able to get what I need and then give back the version of what that person needs. And I'll explain what that means when I'm kind of describing what these exercises are. Um, and this is all going to be kind of in a blog post where I outline all of these things, and then I'll put some prompters together so uh, we can all work through this together, because uh, forgiveness is a continuous process. There's always something to forgive, there's always a reason. We're always constantly learning, and it's something that it's really beneficial. One area where I did not ever expect to see forgiveness is money manifestation. So I did a challenge a few years ago, and it was a 21-day challenge where each day, like, you had to do something, do an exercise, and the goal was manifestation of, like, dollars. So at the beginning, you proclaimed, I want to manifest $1,000 by the end of this 21-day challenge. And each of the days there was a different topic. So one of the days the topic was forgiveness, and I was like, forgiveness? We're talking about money here. Like, what does that have to do with anything? I want my $1,000. I don't want to forgive. I want my money. Where's my money? So I got over myself, and I listened, like, to the prompt, and I did the exercise. And this is kind of where that understanding of that phrase, forgive for self, not forgiving for others, comes into play. I didn't realize that holding on to, the grudge with the guy at work who took credit for my presentation, which actually happened, and I forgave in this challenge. I didn't realize how holding that grudge with this guy at work was preventing me from receiving abundance, flowing with abundance, receiving money. I didn't know that. I never would have put the two things together. And I understood how holding on to these things energetically, holding on to these things really keeps us out of flow. It actually resists the flow that we're seeking in any area of our life, in finances, in love, in health, in work, in everything, in relationships. Like, holding on to this stuff blocks the flow, period. Like, bold, italicized, underlined, flashing neon lights. It blocks the flow of all the things that we say we're trying to create. And we're wondering why we're having a hard time creating and achieving those things that we're looking for. It's because we're blocking. It's because we're holding on to things that don't serve us. So that challenge was really eye-opening for me, because I, forgave people. What was interesting is, once I got over myself, there was like a little, there were sheets for the activities and exercises each day, and I believe there were kind of like 10 blank slots for names or kind of situations where we were supposed to be forgiving to kind of release and do the thing. I remember filling up the 10 slots very, very quickly, and then proceeding to fill another full page with like 30 other names. 30 other names, because, like, I started getting into the swing of it. I started getting to the flow. I started getting the point of the exercise. I started realizing how much I was blocking myself by holding on to these grudges that were sometimes really petty, sometimes decades old, and the person had long moved on, like, didn't talk to me anymore. I didn't care about that. But I started to realize how much I was holding on to and how much I was potentially blocking myself from receiving in all aspects of life. So I got into it. I really got into it. And yeah, I ended up writing. So like I said, I filled those 10 slots like that, and then filled another 30. And that's when I realized why we forgive for ourselves. No one else matters. That's why we forgive for ourselves, so we can receive the things that we say we want. So we can stop resisting. That is why. That's why that phrase makes sense. And that's why it's important if we say we want to lead these full, thriving lives, healthy lives, connected to our bodies. That's why we release. That's why we do the digging and do the exercises and do the prompts and release, because we deserve to. We have the dreams for a reason. Our bodies want to support us and thrive. But when we're adding the unnecessary burden, it means we're resisting all those things that we're trying to create. So, how do we start releasing? That's like the ultimate question, right? Like, how do we start releasing? So, my go-to is writing. I've always been a writer. I've had writing bite me in the butt because I was never, as a youngster, I was never an effective communicator because I was terrified of, no, I'm not, I'm restating that. I was perceived at not being a good communicator. Perception, y'all. I was perceived at not being a good communicator for a number of reasons. I was always really quiet. I was always very observant, and I was the people pleaser. I was the chameleon. I was the peacekeeper. I never stirred the pot, ruffled any feathers. I stayed inside the lines. I did what I was asked, and that was safe for me. And whatever meant safe is what I did. So it was really a response that I had built up because I felt I needed to. So I found solace and comfort in words and writing, not spoken but written. So, and that actually, I had someone very close to me ask me to write to them I couldn't, if I didn't feel comfortable verbalizing how I felt. And then when I actually felt comfortable enough to put those words on paper, I gave them to them, and they were not ready for what I wrote. So then yelled at me and got in trouble, and it was the whole thing. But I now see that it wasn't me that was at fault. I was expressing and I was actually doing what they asked me to do. I was releasing, I was following orders. But they weren't ready to receive what I was giving. And it took a long time for me to realize that I was not the one at fault for that. And I forgave for that situation because, actually, two things. I had to forgive myself, which is a whole other like hour-long talk. I had to forgive myself because I thought I was wrong for speaking my truth. I thought I was wrong for speaking my voice because of the way that the person who asked me to do so received the words and received the message that I gave them. I was not wrong. So I had to forgive myself, and I had to forgive that person for their response to my truth, for my voice, and for the way that, they acted. I forgave for me because they responded using the tools that they had. They responded to the words, the messaging, etc., using what they had and using their previous experience, any wounding that they had previously experienced, not specifically because it was me. That took a long time to unwind, though. But that's why we do these exercises. But I can see now from both sides that it wasn't me. There wasn't any true fault. I perceived it as fault. I perceived it as a wrongness. And I actually, after that, stopped writing for years. Years and years and years and years. Because it didn't feel safe. My one outlet did not feel safe. My one outlet was attacked. I was wronged for it, perceived to be wrong for it. So therefore there was nothing. But we forgive. We release, we reconcile, we extend gratitude, and we move on. So, writing. There's a few different ways that I like to use for writing. And if you're not a writer, I know everyone doesn't like journal for hours or pages and pages. I get that. So I'm going to give a few different examples of ways to kind of do forgiveness and release that are kind of written, verbal, visual, and so this is kind of a little bit for everyone. So journaling, like I said, is my go-to. Last week I shared a prompt that I was actually going through, and I did go through it. I have 4 written pages of things in the categories that I shared with you. So the premise of that exercise was releasing the past to create for the future. And what I was doing is reviewing the areas of kind of home, work, love, health, family, maybe another category. And for each of those categories, I was answering a few questions. And I was basically just going through different scenarios that I could think of from my past, recent past, or, long time ago past. Going through those categories, thinking of scenarios, and then answering questions of what happened, how did I feel, who was involved, what was the impact, is there any belief or pattern that I created as a result of that incident or situation? What can I release from that? What do I not need anymore? Is there an action I can take to release it? And then obviously doing the action, and then burning, releasing, like rip the paper up, burn it. So that's kind of what I was literally what I was doing, and that's kind of why I shared that, because it's something that can be done any time of the year, anytime you feel like you need to release something and just get rid of it and process it. I know a lot of people do stuff like that at kind of new moon rituals. Something like that was perfect for this past solstice. This was, another reason why all the energies were swirling and the retrogrades and the, all the things. So a lot of people do things like that and kind of create a ritual out of it. So, you get the candles out and you get your incense or your oils and you set your intention and set the mood and journal and then release. I don't necessarily do that, but I know people who do. I have done it. I'm usually just a sit down, get it all out, cry a little bit, emote a little bit, and then rip it up or burn it. So whatever floats your boat is absolutely perfect. Okay, so another writing one. This is something that I've also done. Hey, Sujata. Something that I've also done, super, super, super effective. And I will caveat this. So what it is writing a letter to a person. Don't send the letter. Do not send the letter. I'm going to say you'll get in trouble. You might get yourself in trouble. What I will say is, how I said that the person wasn't ready to receive my words? You might end up in that situation, and then you end up with the blowout that you don't want. But write a letter and state your case. This is excellent to do with parents, whether they are still with us or whether they've passed away. State your case. State what you're upset about. State how you feel. State why you feel. State what the impact is or was. The relationship with that person, how it was impacted, the relationship with others, if others are involved, how that shaped your life. Then flip the script, see it from the other person's perspective. How might that person have perceived what was going on? What might have driven what that person was doing? What tools might they have or not have that caused them to react the way that they reacted in that incident? See the experience from their shoes. Was there anything in their upbringing that happened? Is there anything in their adult life that happened that caused them to create a persona or an identity or something that then leads to reactions of a certain type? See it from their perspective. And then once you see that maybe that person, had a hard upbringing, or maybe they, had something happen, which then caused them to maybe not have the tools or feel comfortable communicating in a certain way, or, just prevented a certain type of behavior that you felt would have been beneficial for the situation. Once you can see that, what did you learn? What can you now appreciate the person for? What can you appreciate the situation for? What did you learn from it? How are you grateful for it? And how do you move forward? Really, this is about that observer perspective. So being able to understand where people are coming from, essentially putting that shoe on the other foot, and understanding that your perspective is not the only one. And just like you have your experiences, they too have their experiences. And just like you would want someone to understand where you're coming from, you're doing that to understand where someone else is coming from. So really getting to the point where you can see the coin from both sides. And respecting, showing gratitude, showing love even, and releasing. And you can even say how you wanted this, how you would have liked the situation to come to end, if that feels comfortable as well. The very first time I did this was 3 years ago. It was actually almost 3 years ago. And I sat on a Saturday morning and wrote a letter to someone. I'm not going to say who. I wrote a letter to someone and I let it rip. It ended up being like a 4 or 5 page letter. Like 4 or 5 pages, college rule, both sides. And I was just honest. I was honest with how I felt. I was honest with how I felt I'd been wronged. I was honest about the emotions that I was holding. I was honest about what I wanted from them that they weren't giving me. And then I took a step back and I said, okay, this is coming from them for a reason. What might be the reason that they would act the way that they're acting? And then I was able to start looking at their reaction a little bit differently, looking at their patterns of behavior a little bit differently, seeing how they didn't have the tools to react in the manner that I would have liked them to react. And finally got to the space of maybe they've just done the best that they could. And can you really ask more of someone? I know when I give my best, that's what I have to give. And I give my best in every situation, whether it is 100% because I can give you 100%, or whether it's 70% because that's what I have to give today. But I'm going to give you my best. So if I know that of myself, why not assume, and I know assume can get us in trouble, why not assume that that person is doing the same? Whether they have the tools or not, that they're doing their best. That one got me. That one got me. When I tell you the tears that fell when I was writing that letter, it was intense. And the reason it was intense is because I was honest. And that's the one thing that, another thing, so earlier I said there's two, there's actually three things. Getting to a place of gratitude, actual reconciliation, and honesty. When we're doing these forgiveness exercises, we're doing it for ourselves, but we have to be true for ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves to get to the point of the true release and freedom that we're looking for. And I learned, in that morning and with that, exercise in that manifestation challenge, honesty is really the way to go here. So I cried it out for 2 hours while writing. I did not send the letter. That was the key. I did not send the letter. I got it out. I released. I cried. I did everything that I needed to do. I rewrote the certain scenarios where I would have liked them to play out differently. I forgave them. I saw things from another perspective. My perception of what their perspective was. I got to that observer and I released. I thanked them and I released. And it was really powerful. There were actually a lot of shifts that happened as a result of that. The start of a lot of shifts, and then shifts that actually happened. Not only in my interactions with this person, but interactions with other people too. So when you do this, whether you do it once or multiple times, when you do this, you start to see others in a different light. You start to see that everyone might actually just be doing the best that they can. You start to see that people, albeit sometimes, are out to get you, but they even might be doing the best that they can, or the only thing they know to do. You start to have a level of compassion and understanding for the human experience. You start to have a level of gratitude for your experience and the tools that you have and the growth and the journey that you're on. You start to have the lightening of the load that you're really, really looking for, because you're not looking to judge others. You're looking to understand, you're looking to reconcile, and you're looking to move on. So the benefits far, far, far outweigh just sitting down and writing the letter or sitting down and journaling for that one person, because it actually is a big ripple effect. Because once you do this for one or two people, it can become a way of life, and you really just conduct yourself from a place of love and compassion and understanding, and not the judgment and the resentment. Albeit, it creeps in every now and again, but you're not operating from that space. That was actually part of my lesson for, I'll say energetic lesson, but that was part of the lesson for the autoimmune diagnosis that I received. Compassion, rest, rest, but compassion for self and compassion for others. That was a big, big, big one for me. Like I said, I would hold a grudge to the death if you let me. But getting to a place where I don't judge, getting to a place where I can just be easy, be in flow, understand, and show gratitude, and just see that people are doing what they're doing. It has nothing to do with me. Like 9.999 times out of 10, it literally has nothing to do with you. It's the other person's response to their wounding, to their patterning, to their environment, to their lack of tools, to their, whatever, to their mood, to the dog that kept them up at night, the toddler that kept them up at night, their back pain that kept them up and didn't get, a lot of sleep. Nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. I've heard several stories of like coworkers going through divorces or dealing with sick parents who are living at home, and or even going through illnesses of their own, and then projecting hate and anger and fear and so many other things onto others, and the others interpret it as something that they've done wrong, so they kind of walk on eggshells. They kind of walk away from conversations with their tail between their legs, and it has nothing to do with us as the recipients. It has everything to do with how people are able to process what's going on in their day and in their lives. So our ability to see that, understand that, forgive them for the tools that they do or do not have, forgive them for that behavior, see the compassion, have that compassion, and see that they're doing what they do because they're doing what they can. They're doing what they can with what they have. Getting to that point, release, keep it moving. That's where we want to be. See it, acknowledge it, forgive it, release it, keep it moving. Like, that's ultimately our goal. Okay, so write a letter. Do not send the letter. Do not send a letter. I know someone who did this and sent the letter. It was not good. It was not good. Maybe it was good. Yeah, it was what it was. Don't send a letter. Okay. So most of this stuff is actually based on the premise of the Hawaiian kind of forgiveness reconciliation prayer of Ho'oponopono. And it's very well known. You can find like loops of the prayer on YouTube. You can find short versions. You can find long versions. But the premise is kind of a lot of what I've been saying. So it's saying I'm sorry. It's offering the forgiveness, asking for the forgiveness, extending gratitude, and extending kind of love and appreciation. So there's a couple of different ways I've seen this done, or kind of explained this to be done. And one way is imagine yourself in a theater. So, like with seats, and there's a stage, and on the stage there's a microphone. There could even be a chair. In the audience are the people that you want to, so you're sitting in the audience, and I like to imagine it as me kind of sitting kind of front row in the middle. And everyone else, it could be a full auditorium full of people, or it could just be a couple of rows full of people. And you invite the people up to the stage. So they're the one that's standing on the stage. And to them, you kind of do this kind of one-on-one. You're sitting in the audience, ask them to come forward on the stage and stand to their microphone. And you tell them, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I appreciate you, thank you, I love you. Sometimes I add a little extra, but like those 4 statements, that's it. Like, that's the basic premise of the Ho'oponopono. The extra that I like to add is the clarity on the situation. So I don't think it's as beneficial to just say, I'm sorry, I forgive you, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgive you. Do you forgive me? Yeah, okay, thanks. I love you. I want to get in it. I want to really know why I'm saying I'm sorry. I want to know why I'm extending this forgiveness and what there is actually to be grateful for. I want to make sure with 100% certainty what's going on and why. Because when you kind of do it half, you're not going to get the benefit. And it's with anything. Give it all you got. So I like to add in like why I'm doing this, why I'm sorry, why the other person, why I'm forgiving the other person, what I learned. So being clear again, one of those three keys: gratitude, getting to a place of gratitude for the situation, for the lesson, for whatever. And then saying thank you, I love you. And then after that, kind of you saying that to them, ask them to say it back to you. So this is a little bit of visualization. Again, this is, if you're not a writer, you would kind of visualize this. You can say this out loud, or just kind of sit quietly and do it to yourself. Both are fine, but I like that clarity. But the premise is, I'm sorry, I forgive you, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. It's that simple. But getting to the place of gratitude, that's the key. Gratitude and love, so non-attachment. Okay, so those are, there's another one. What's the other one? There's another way that I've seen this done. So not specifically the Ho'oponopono, but it's kind of wrapped up into that premise. So I've also seen this where you kind of take, how do I explain this? It's a conversation that happens between two people, and you're essentially sitting with the person. So you're sitting, in two leather chairs facing each other, and you're kind of having the exchange of, this is what's going on, this is how I perceived it, this is what I would have liked to happen, this is the impact. Like, you're having that exchange. And then you're essentially, you get to the point where you take what represents everything that you've taken on from that person out of that experience, and you put it into a box. And it doesn't have to be a big box, regardless of the size of the blow up. The box doesn't have to be big, it's just representative. And you kind of take everything that represents, like maybe it's pulling off a layer of skin, maybe it's like pulling off, pulling away the energetic layer, pulling away the emotions and the beliefs that came from that situation. But you're pulling it out, you're putting it into the box. And then you hand the box to the person and you say, I'm not carrying this anymore. This is not mine to carry. I'm giving this back to you. And essentially, you hand the box to the person, and in that, it's symbolic of releasing your burden and giving their burden back to them. It can be really powerful if you are a good visual person. I've done variations of this, and it's been super powerful. But that's kind of like the gist of it. Okay, two more tips on releasing. So the other one, one is physical. Move your body, exercise. Like, I'm always going to say exercise because it's a form of release. It's a way to move energy. It's a way to clear your mind. It's a way to get your blood pumping. It's a way to get those good endorphins going. It's simply just going to help you release, particularly after you do kind of one of these journaling or visualization exercises. Like, the physical movement can actually help you release, and feel like it actually settles in a little bit more. And not related to forgiveness, but related to release, decluttering. So I've been doing this. I'm like in the middle of not as big of an annual purge because I moved in July and I purged a lot in that move, but I am still purging. I'm still going through things and, looking at what needs to stay, what needs to go, what supports me, what does not want to support me. And energetically surrounding ourselves with the things that want to support us is supportive. When we have things that inspire us in our environment, that helps. When we have, clutter, it can make us anxious, it can stress us out, it can surround us with things that we just don't need. One thing that I've started to realize is, where we sleep. Do we have clutter in our bedroom? Do we have a lot of clutter in our office? Are we able to sleep and rest effectively in our bedrooms with that clutter? Are we able to be creative and inspired and in flow in our office if it doesn't support creativity and inspiration, if it's cluttered, if we've got stuff everywhere? I'm talking to myself here because my office is not where I want it to be. So I'm working on that. But can we thrive and move and flow in our environments if we've got stuff that doesn't support where we are and where we're going? So, declutter, release, release, release. Old ideas, old beliefs, old stuff. I'm throwing away like old sweatpants that no longer serve me and my energy and where I'm going. I'm throwing away, not throwing away, but like throwing for donation. Like socks. Socks even hold an energetic signature. Who knew? So I'm decluttering and it feels good. It feels good to release. I'm also doing the journaling, which I explained I was doing the journaling kind of in those different categories. I'm also forgiving myself. This is the one thing that still actually kind of takes me a while to do. It's easier to forgive others than it is to forgive ourselves. Maybe, maybe not. But it's been hard for me to forgive myself. But again, if I'm doing the best that I can, if I'm using the tools that I have availability or that are available for me in any given moment, and I choose to use them or choose not to use them, I'm making a choice and I'm acting upon that choice. We're allowed to forgive ourselves because we're forgiving others. We're allowed to release for self. We're doing what we can, just like everyone else is. Whether we dated the guy, whether we bought the thing or didn't buy the thing, or went to the place or didn't go to the place, like whatever it was, we did what we did what we did. We did what we could. It's okay. It's okay. Whether it is in 2021, whether it was in 1980, whether it was in 1435, we did what we did. It's okay. We don't need to blame ourselves. We just need to see it, accept it, show gratitude, let it go. So, with all of those examples, there should be one in there, or two, but definitely one, to help you on your forgiveness journey. And not just forgiveness, but reconciliation. So remember, kind of my keys were getting to a place of the reconciliation and the gratitude, and then being honest. So being honest with yourself about what you're forgiving, why you're forgiving, what you're reconciling, and why, whether you are grateful or not. Because when you have that gratitude and you're able to kind of see multiple perspectives, that's where the power is. That's where the release happens, and that's where we can grow and have the benefits. Since I've been able to kind of implement this whole forgiveness stuff, this reconciliation stuff, Oh, the benefits. The benefits have been good. Um, I am not as angry. I used to be really angry and really afraid. Interesting combination. Really angry, really afraid. Very skewed perception of myself, very skewed perception of life, very skewed perception of what was possible for everything. And that has changed because one, I realized I was holding on to things for other people. Two, I realized, well, and I was able to forgive myself because I was doing the best I could. But no, that was really it. Because I was able to get to a place where I started to forgive myself, but see multiple perspectives and stop holding on to the grudges. Once I stopped holding on to grudges and like actually seeing people for who and what they are, life just shifted. Life literally shifted and didn't feel as restricted. I've been able to be way more in flow, way more better, like higher quality relationships with people. Because when you see people and you're not just like throwing resentment, throwing shade, throwing judgment, when you're not throwing those things around and you can kind of just go and be present with someone, like think about the shift that can happen in a relationship. Whether it's a 5 minute interaction or a 20-year, relationship. So being that in any given moment, and then serving as the example and invitation for others to do that for themselves and those in their lives. That's been really powerful. So being able to show up for myself in a way that I couldn't before because I was too afraid or too angry and couldn't see it, or too tired, or not inspired. There are so many ors that I can give as examples. So I've been able to show up for myself way more after doing this forgiveness and reconciliation. My health has improved because I'm just not holding on. I'm not holding on to the grudges. I'm able to live more for myself instead of living for others, which has been huge, 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 huge. And releasing these beliefs that don't belong to me, releasing the emotions that don't belong to me, and do. I take credit for some of it. But releasing all of these things that are contributing to that dense fog and being able to kind of be those rays of light for myself and potentially for others that start to break through the fog so we can see clearer. So it impacts our health, it impacts our ability to thrive, it impacts our bodies. Our bodies are listening, our bodies are responding, whether we want them to or not. Our bodies are smart, they're super connected. We just got to know how to work with them and start to release and be able to thrive. And we all want to thrive, right? I think we all want to thrive.